that's the thing. We each have an assemblage point, a place in our luminous energy field where we have all of our experiences and all of our, the way that we see the world, and it's locked into this.
Hello, everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire podcast. Welcome back to a new episode. Kind reminder that you can visit us on spiritualinspire.ca and Gnostic TV, and also on my YouTube channel. For today, my guest is Carley Mattimore. Carley, thank you very much for joining me.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I look forward to sharing and seeing what wants to be shared through the heart today.
Yes, it's an honor because I finished your book recently, Sacred Messengers of Shamanic Africa, and there are nuances and facets of that continent that not everyone can portray the way you did, because you spend a lot of time there with shamans and local elders, and you're able to dig deeper into the traditions and the energy of the land. And one of the main areas you talk about is the 31st meridian that goes north-south along Africa. So I'd like to start by asking you why this meridian is so important.
It's if we begin to understand that, we as humans are a microcosm of the macrocosm, that we hold all of life in our bodies. We begin to wonder, what is the bigger picture? What is the macrocosm? And one of the things I, began to realize and understand through the teachings and the sharings through the different elders is that Earth itself is the macrocosm. It's one aspect of it. We also have the cosmic macrocosm. So everything is reflected in the Earth. So at one point, our world used to be one landmass. We can refer to it as Gondwana, or Pangea. But even before that, it was one landmass. And if we just kind of take a moment to, to even see a little bit differently, that entity is floating in seawater, salted water, sort of, begin to understand that it was an amniotic fluid, essentially, because we also are in the womb of our own mothers as humans, surrounded by that amniotic fluid. And if you divide that continent in half, that one body, land body, that, right down the middle is the spine, right? Just like our spine. And that spine divides the continents, or actually, and it turns out that it divides Africa now that the continents have split into different, or the world has separated into different continents, it divides it in half. So this 31st meridian is like the spine of our Mother Earth. And it goes right down through some sacred sites, and we begin to start to see the relevance of that. And Linda Tucker speaks of that in her book about the white lions. Just, the awe of how she discovered the significance of these sacred sites being on this longitudinal meridian. And it connects with the Sphinx paws that are actually in Giza. The Sphinx itself is built on this meridian. And there are other amazing significant things that are connected, like Great Zimbabwe is on this meridian. There's an ancient astrological calendar that's said to be 75,000 years old, which is really, really old. It sits on this meridian. And there are many other relevations. The white lions, which are the sacred animal of the African people, said to be prophesize, a time on earth when there will be going through great, astrological, environmental, ecological change on the planet, just like other indigenous tribes have prophesied with the white animals, that it would be a time of great change. And these are sacred beings, they're holders of light, and to support us in this transformation on our planet. So all of these and more. I mean, I really wanted to go to the mountain gorillas. I felt really such a big connection to visit them, and that's not in this book. But I wanted to take a group there, and as I'm looking at the calendar, or not the calendar, but the map of where we're going, I'm like stunned by its significance of being so close to the 31st meridian. The Great Rift Valley is right there, in that Kenya area, but this was in Uganda, and it's like, it's like essentially on the meridian. And one of the elder people that I met there said it used to be, but of course, with civilization creeping in, it moved, the habitat of the mountain gorillas back, but it's also on this meridian. You
Yes.
know, there's just a lot. It's just so, there's just like, it is an energetic portal, and it connects to the Milky Way above. So essentially, it runs the river of stars, and our connection to the stars is reflected down onto Earth on this 31st meridian. And then in the Earth is also referred to, as the river of gold, because along this path is also all of these, all these gems and minerals and all the things that we are actually taking out of the earth right now to fuel technology. Most of it comes from this place, along this meridian, the sacred spine. And we also have that in our bodies. So that's an interesting piece too. It's in our bodies. We get gold along our spine, flecks of gold, which is interesting. You're like, okay. So that's a little bit, significance is huge. And it was like Greenwich is on the 0 meridian, but essentially that was man-made. And, in reality, this is the 31st meridian.
Thank
And
you.
this is like 0, but it's actually the 31st, and it goes all the way around. And it's interesting that I think you've been working with some of the energies. Hawaii is on this meridian also. Kiev, is on this meridian. So it's interesting that the conflict is happening here between these, two countries, reflecting some of that, that basically the separation between that right and left brain, between good and, good and bad, right and wrong, whatever, female and male. Anyway, we create a separation.
Yes, and we had conflict in Africa for generations, with colonization, and they ripped everything apart, ship it out, and that's why Africa is still, or people in Africa are still poor while they are living on a rich continent.
Right. Yeah. And that it goes way, way, way back, and it's continued repeated trauma. And, and also, because its significance is so huge, kind of um, a sort of a denial, like it's a blocked memory of how important this is for our wholeness in the world. So we, either it's kept secret or it's denied, and we've, essentially, um, demonize it, or that's not, that's too strong of a word, but it's an expression of our own shadow, because we've denied an aspect of our wholeness, our who we are as beings. Connect here. We all came from this place.
Indeed. And Carly, during these tours, you connect with the spirit of the animals, the giraffe, the hippopotamus, the lion, the zebra, or the anything else, the crocodile. And over these many years you visited the land, have you seen any changes that will worry you in terms of animal behavior, people behavior, weather patterns?
You know, that's a good question. In my, I guess I'll start with, sharing one of this happened with Mandaza, actually, when we were with Baba Mandaza Kandemwa. Baba really connects, with the animals, and, really taught me how to open up my heart more to communicate with animal behavior. The animals are actually in many ways ahead of us. Another animal communicator shared with us that, the animals, like we're humans, are in their shadow. They're guiding us, about right relationship, and we have really, as a culture, distanced ourselves from, like animals have become less, inferior to us, like we have a privileged place. But one of the things, I think right now for us to recognize, and it's coming up more and more because more and more animals are communicating, more people are recognizing and raising their frequency, so they are able to communicate. And and have access to that. And Mandaza, in this exchange that we had when we were in Africa one time, was a real big teacher for me to see this actually in action. To be in a place where I'm sitting in a Jeep in the middle of, of the bush, and a giraffe comes up to us, and then, as it's leaving, it turns and because the giraffe has the largest heart of the land mammal. So it turns and it looks right at us, and I can see Bubba's face and I can feel the emotion in his body as he's connecting with the giraffe. And the giraffe's message is peacekeepers are needed. The war is not over yet. So that was such a big one, and it's still sitting with me because, in our minds, we might think, okay, we've done all this spiritual work. The world is going to be better tomorrow. It is not, This is the beginning. We are entering this new time on earth where we are all being called to step into a higher octave of service from the heart, and work with the animals. That's what my next book is about, connecting with the warrior energy in us to co-create with the animal world. And they are injured too. They've forgotten who they are because more and more they've been, put in cages or,
Displaced.
yeah, and the other part is that, they don't know how to coexist with humans because they forget who they are because of how this interaction has been such a disrespectful one. So the more that we can get in right alignment and begin to see them as partners in this, we can start communication in a way that I believe is possible for us to have a whole different kind of relationship with all beings on earth, So it is changing. And there are animals that are really, maybe showing us this in a way that we have never seen before. Like with the elephants, we are now learning that when the elephants are separated, this is some work with, and I can't remember the name of the conservatory, Sheldrake in Kenya. They started rescuing baby elephants, that their parents had been killed because of the ivory, wanting the tusks. And so they were essentially abandoned. And they recognized you take an elephant away from its family and try to raise it with humans, it forgets how to be an elephant. It needs to know how to be an elephant. And I think I even share that in the book, about the juvenile elephants that are taken away from the fathers, and and they don't know how to be an elephant any longer. And it's so relevant for us humans, like how disconnected we are, and having to relearn what it means to be a human.
Yes.
Anyway, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, they have the same or similar societal relationships. And I also studied the elephants for my first book. And I understand how sensitive they are and how empathic and loving they are. But also we can see the other side of them if we don't treat them with respect.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have a hierarchical, I mean, not a hierarchical per se, but they have a complex family system just like we do. And all of us are been both humans and animals, and their family systems have been disrupted, and that has affected, how we are in the world.
Carley, you mentioned about Adam's calendar, which is so old, 75,000 years old. And I would like to expand on that and also mention that there is a feminine stone missing from the calendar. The stone is somewhere misplaced. Do you know if there are plans to return the stone back to its origin?
I do not know if there are plans, to return it energetically. And there, I know that when I was there with a group of people, that was one of the things that we, a group of women, really connected with that feminine stone. And some would argue about whether or not it is a feminine stone, but it was very clearly a feminine stone, and its significance in that calendar, to find that rightful place is I think very important for balance. This calendar is an incredible representation of the medicine. It's a medicine wheel, is what it is. I call it a calendar, but it's a medicine wheel, and it's very, very old and holds, and I think they've done studies there where you actually, um, you know, um, create the sound frequencies or let those sound frequencies from the earth come up with sand, and it forms the flower of life, our connection to all that is. It's like this is such a sacred place on the top of this mountain. And it's missing. So what is that, what is it even, I mean, how does it even reflect for us, as a species, that we have separated ourselves from the feminine, that it is not there, in its rightful place in the center of the wheel, connecting with the great above and the great below. So, energetically, I'd like to, believe maybe, or hold that intention, or even feel into that it is energetically in the process of returning.
So maybe Baba Mandaza can ask that question if the stone is ready to go back.
Baba could do that. We could ask Baba, yeah, and he will he will share, he's very much spoken into the importance of the feminine when we've been with him, and that the feminine is really, we're needing, the feminine, the females, the feminine, basically to lead the way right now. That is very, very important, and then with that, I think it's vital, my own self really seeing the significance of healing the masculine as well. So
yes, and in my opinion, looking at the world surrounding us, I think the feminine has to stay and work from the position it is right now, in terms of like your position, or someone like Jyoti Ma, or Tricia Eastman, or someone which in a similar status, not going higher in a political arena, because I think that's the moment when everything gets corrupted, and even the feminine can turn into something which is not feminine anymore, doesn't help the world, doesn't bring love, and that power corrupts for some reason. I don't know why, and I really don't want to know, but I think this type of feminine power and work has to come from grassroots level, from your level, shamanism level.
yeah, and in that, really supporting the healing of the personal healing, which I speak about in my book, and how important it is right now for us to, to heal ourselves, and understand, that there's a lot of history that's stored in our bodies from our own personal traumas, but the collective trauma and our lineage trauma. And it's really important, for us. We can't get a clear view of the world, or a clear perspective or an understanding until we, until we really become independent or individuated, because it's so enmeshed with so much trauma from so long of a period, what we call patriarchy. But it's like it's ingrained in us, and we're in the process of this big clearing.
Yes, and that will happen through increased consciousness. And you mentioned the White Lion Foundation and the meaning of a white animal. And I want to go back to the your book, the back cover, where it says it was predicted by the indigenous tribes in Africa that when the white lions returned to their sacred lands in Timbavati, we would be in a time of evolutionary and spiritual awakening. And the equivalent for the white lion in North America is the white bison. And also in your book, you mentioned about the connection between Cecile, the lead of the pride, and Jericho, the second in command from a different bloodline. And Jericho's behavior of not killing Cecile's cubs when Cecile died. You think that it was a shift in consciousness. Do you think that that shift in consciousness is going through the animal kingdom right now, and we have to really follow up shortly, otherwise we are in danger?
Oh, that's a lot, that's, I think there are different pieces of that. So what I'm hearing is, that I guess I want to speak into a little bit too, is that there are these animals or this consciousness that comes to the collective, to humanity at a tipping point. And Cecil, the lion, he's many of you probably have heard who are listening in, he was a black maned lion that was cherished in Zimbabwe because he had an essence. And there were many, many different lions that were killed before him by trophy hunters. But this one was like a tipping point, and that tipping point caused the whole world to take notice, and it's like anything else. When there is an energy, and that energy, for whatever reason, comes to the surface, there's a bit of consciousness that rises, and it's set like a wave of motion across the planet for change. And there was all kinds of things that happened. It was a big expansion, where all of a sudden people started seeing, the transfer of bone parts across countries was just not okay. What was happening, with these incredible animals was not okay. But then from that came a contraction, and that contraction then eventually started taking away that, because it went back to the old consciousness. But it did inform things, and seeds were planted. The animals themselves, you're asking, are they a part of this? Of course, we're seeing things that happen between species and cross species that are helping us wake up to see, that animals have a consciousness. They too, are showing us, like mirroring something for us, where we are actually seeing each other. Jericho not killing, Cecil's cubs. It doesn't mean that that's going to happen with all the other animals, but it was a moment in time that gave us possibility. Opened up something that had been, like a door, closed in our consciousness, where we couldn't see it, because that's the thing. We each have an assemblage point, a place in our luminous energy field where we have all of our experiences and all of our, the way that we see the world, and it's locked into this. And so we can't really see accurately. We can't see the higher perspective, because it's so based on some energy distribution from our experiences and our lineage that keeps us, from seeing the bigger picture until there is something. Cecil was that something for the world, broke that through. And for each of us, for me, it was listening to Andrew Harvey talk about the white lions, when he was talking about having hope in a world where everything seemed to be falling apart. And this was like in 2011, or 20, yeah, it was 2011. And I'm like, think of it now it feels even more like chaos going on out there. But that was a tipping point for me, and it opened up that door for me to think about things differently. And I think so many of us right now, like you talk about the awakening is that more and more people are reaching that tipping point. And it's a beautiful process to witness, where you no longer, I worked, today I did some energy work with somebody, and in that moment when all of a sudden she could sense the dense, heavy energy in her body started to break apart. It was like, what? It was that moment. Your consciousness can no longer be contained by the old story any longer. It is blown open to see something different. And for me, I had a heart awakening. I felt like the white lion energy jumped into my heart, and boom, all of a sudden I was crying. I opened a doorway in my heart where I didn't even know that the energy had been protective and guarding me. So anyway, that's a long way to answer your question, but
Beautiful.
Claudio.
It's beautiful. Thank you. And along the same line, you mentioned a ritual in which the dragon this time hoards the gold, which is an aspect of our soul, until we are, ready to retrieve it after we learn a particular lesson. In the movie The Hobbit, the dragon is doing the same thing, is protecting the gold. Do you think Tolkien was giving us a similar message?
Yeah, I think these messages have been throughout history. We have had seeders on the planet, someone that had a vision. So that's what's really cool. I read The Wind and the Somebody sent me a message today, in a text, and it was highlighting a message from The Wind and the Willows. I mean, that's a really old book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that right in that little book. And I don't know what year it was printed, but it was like it encapsulated change, how we move through change and going down into the underground to that safety of what we knew, because, sometimes we need to ground ourselves in that safety before we venture out into the upper world where things are changing so fast, and yet the soul wants to move. It wants to travel, to explore, to expand. We can't stop it any longer. I mean, we don't want to stop it because it would really hurt us, but it's such a longing. And right now, those energies are so, they're so powerful right now that people are also sharing, like, I don't understand it. Why didn't I learn this lesson 10 years ago? It would have saved me all of that, whatever, that struggle. And my answer is like, it's not so much about your age, it's about the time. This is the time we are in. And whether you're 16 or 25 or 80 or 90, doing your own personal work is now, it's coming to us, for us, rapidly, because these energies are moving rapidly. The frequencies of this change, it's, it's a roller coaster. I mean, I don't even know, it's like it's movement, incredible movement.
Yes, indeed. But at the same time, I just learned a lesson before starting this interview with you. My wife called me to show me an Instagram post of a well-known spiritual teacher. He lives in Costa Rica. And the post was from his son saying, after spending an amazing time with my dad in the jungles and mountains of Peru, with some transformative spiritual experiences. And next day, my father had a stroke. His left side is totally stiffed. And the guy is out there with his consciousness connected to the divine, totally fit. But he pushed himself, I think, too much. And why my wife wanted me to see the post is because I push myself too much. And she said, you have to be conscious that at one point your body might not catch up with the energies that are going through your body. And I don't want myself to start taking care of you at that level because I don't have the strength to do that. So be careful. So at the same time, we have to be conscious of what or these meat bodies, meat shells can do.
That is so true, and what a beautiful, gift from your wife for you, kind of a reminder, stay in the body and make sure, because this is really important, and it is a message for all of us, because we, even though we're bringing in a lot of these energies, and our bodies are affected by the electrical current that these spiritual, and they can be addictive experiences, and anything, we have to be careful, because it's not about taking lots of psychoactive drugs. It's not about doing a lot of shamanic breathworks, because it feels good and we want to reach this nirvana. It's about how do we stay connected with our body, and this was a big lesson I talked about in the book as well. Important to be in relationship with our physicality and our spirituality, so that we are working together. Because if we're not working together and we don't nourish and support our bodies, and listen to the wisdom they carry, we can't push, essentially, we can't push a new birth. We can't push, ourselves into, I mean, we can, but it comes at a cost, because it's not, it's a process. Just like giving birth is a process, and that's what I speak about in the book. Remembering my first, giving birth to my first daughter, not really being connected to my body. It's not knowing how to work with the body to support the body in the contractions. So how can this be relevant for us, each of us? Can we work with, our own, physical bodies, because we are matter and we're bringing more divinity into our bodies, but we have to do it relationally. We have to understand that it's a birth process. We can't push it into being. We need to work with it into being, so
Yes.
that we're tending the vessel for our soul. I don't know if that answers it for you, but it's what comes to mind.
Yes, indeed. Carly, during my interview with Baba Mandaza, we touched on the Dore communities. Do you think that these type of communities will thrive in the near future with increased consciousness and awareness of everyone around us?
I think that this would be something for communities to begin to connect more with, what it means to bring Dare into a community. For brainstorming, what is the right relationship here in our communities? In our community here in Springfield, Illinois, there's been a lot of there was a recent death of an African American woman, through she was essentially murdered by a policeman, and it was, devastating to the community. And it just flashed in my mind when you asked that, is like, wouldn't that be in a wonderful way for us to gather in community with Dare, to listen to the connections of the land, of the different people who have dreams and visions, to begin to collectively envision what is a way to heal this community. And Dare is one way to do that. I was on a meeting last night, about some land here that's that is held by the Dominican sisters, and it's a beautiful 120 acres of land that's been returned to the natural state, and it's in communion. How do I want to say it? It's been in a respectful relationship that ties in with different places across the planet, where this land and its animals are respected, and we're in right relationship with it. But what is to happen in the future? What can we envision? And it may be something like Dare comes in. I suggested that maybe we connect with the land and do something that Baba taught me, which I really love, is to create a United Nations. And maybe in this particular land, we can have somebody represent the water, somebody represent the land, somebody represent the deer, or the four-leggeds, or the insect kingdom. And how do we then, as humans, if we're representing these different beings, how can we then receive that message, connect with the spirit world, receive the messages from these, and form that United Nations, which is similar to a Dare. Dare is a beautiful concept. We do it on a very minuscule scale here. But I think this might be a way to, it certainly will help us reestablish our connection to the land and the people.
Yes,
The animals.
there is hope. Thank you.
Yes.
Carly, do you still organize tours to Africa these days?
We do, and actually we have one coming up really soon. We are going to Africa, to South Africa and Zimbabwe. And in South Africa, we're going to Kruger National Park. We'll spend a week there. And it really is a very intentional trip to connect with the heart of the mother, because essentially this is a motherland. So it's a pilgrimage to the motherland is what we call it. And it will be connecting to the motherland on the 31st meridian, and opening our hearts and connecting with the earth and water nations, essentially the animals that are here, and see what animals want to come to us, and what are the messages, and what are the ideas, what is the communication, what's the vision for us to move forward. So that will be a week, in Kruger, and then we're headed to Zimbabwe to pick up Baba Mandaza, and he will be with us for a week as we travel to Great Zimbabwe, this ancient civilization I bet this will be I think maybe fourth time with Baba at Great Zimbabwe, and it's incredibly powerful. And this to connect with the ancestors, to really dive into a deep relationship and listen to the wisdom. And I know Baba is very connected with the younger people, so wanting to what is the message for our work with the youth, to support them as the elders as they are bringing these, the work to the world. And then we're going to not Great Zimbabwe, to Victoria Falls to work with the waters and integrate our experience, with the water nations. So I'm really excited. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. We've cultivated a small group of people. There's actually one opening, so if anybody feels really called, I don't know if this will go out in time, but
I will mention it on social media right after this recording, so people would be aware if there are anyone available to join you.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Yeah. So I'm so excited to do this again. This will be my 8th time to South Africa, which just amazes me, and I've been working not just with there, but also gone down, which I speak it on in the book in 2022, I guess it was in 2022. We went to the White Lions and then went down to work with Dean Laprini. And it was some really big work that happened there. And then I did a pilgrimage, a vision quest with Dean Laprini and Terry DeFries, which was at Hope's, the seat of hope and light. Yeah, that was powerful. So.
And would you be able to share with us how was that vision quest? What exactly was involved? Some people don't eat food for a number of days, just drink water. They don't have the fire. They don't interact with each other. How was yours, if you can share, please?
It was really, I felt when I first went there, I felt it very strongly that I needed to go back. So, and the seat of light and hope it's called Paarl Rock in South Africa, and it's this very sacred place that the Bushmen used to come, and they still come. But it's a very large disc, and this disc is upright, and then there was the mountain behind it, and it's like 2 female breasts. And the big belly, the mountain itself is like the big belly of the woman. So it's very much the feminine. And then on the solstice, on the summer solstice in South Africa, which is at Christmas time, December 21st, the sun at the very last ray of sunlight comes right between those 2 mountains that represent the breasts. And that light actually reflects and it impregnates that big seed. So it's this very much, a representation of a new egg being fertilized, new life being fertilized, a new time on earth is one way to look at it. So I felt strongly to go back, and Dean was able to work with us. So yes, preparation. I didn't not eat. We just ate very lightly, and we spent the night and connected with the energies and spent a lot of time in silence and ritual to really just receive what was wanting to come forward for each of us, and spoke into that. And there were 2 of us, and Dean held space for us basically while we connected with the land.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So yeah.
And during this upcoming tour, are you planning to go through any local sacred plant medicine ceremony with the Baba Mandaza?
No, we're not doing any of the plant medicines. I use, our group will be using something called Shamanic Breathwork or Breathwork, and it uses the breath to access different states of consciousness. So, that would be one thing that, if we do use it, that we will use the breath to access this. I do shamanic breath work. That's something that I've done through, Linda Starwolf, and so that's something very dear to my heart. It's, I speak about it in the book, and it's a way to use music and breath to access different states of consciousness and receive messages. And that, that might be one way. We'll certainly do different rituals and ceremonies and connect also, because spirit will speak to us in, as Baba says, it will get our attention. So we will be informed as to what is needed, and it will inform us.
Yeah, I bet these are beautiful experiences. And because you mentioned about breath work, I read that during one of your breathwork sessions, you had a crystal skull placed in your abdomen. How did that evolve inside for you?
It's interesting, well, I think I probably even share it in the book that after that happened, I'm like, what is, I mean, I had no idea what this would mean or how it would evolve. But then, it turned out that when I was on the journey with another group in Africa, there was a woman who was carrying a crystal skull with us through the journey. So I was, this was very, very informative, and it had a huge significance for healing, I think, for the land at that time, and certainly for myself. It was big.
Yeah, it's fine. It's interesting. And what is the status of White Lion Foundation?
They're continuing to grow and evolve and reach different places around the planet. Their mission is very clear, to support these white lions, and it's continuing to grow, and I do know, I mean, it's continuing to evolve and grow in its relationship with its important messages. They have the White Lion Leadership Academy, which brings in different people, different leaders to experience these kinds of energies and to work with the land and the animals, particularly, the lions, both white and tawny lions. And John and I, my husband, both attended that White Lion Leadership, and it was life-changing. And different leaders come and immerse this in this energy, and it's helping to support more people, in different organizations around the world to hold these principles. They're, the White Lion leadership principles, which there are 13 of them, they're essentially multidimensional in nature, that hold us in right relationship, in this understanding that we are interdependent, that we are connected to all, and we have a responsibility right now to step up and to adhere to right relationship, and take action in a way that is in right relationship with the land and the people, with spirit.
So in other words, we can replace Six Sigma with this type of leadership roles, with the White Lions roles.
Yes, it is really about being, in alignment. It's again going back to that spine. How do we stay in alignment, with heaven and earth, or as above, so below, as within, so without, finding balance between the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. And essentially that is one, and because we can't exist without the other. It's essentially consciousness and life force energy. That's how I see it. It's like this relationship with our right and left brain is like bringing it back into wholeness, not having it be separate, to understand that everything is a reflection of us. And this goes back to Baba Mandaza when his first teaching, he's like, everything, it's like, it's all connected to the great I am, which is the feminine life force energy of all creation, and being in relationship with that energy within us. And as that starts to move and our densities start, all those old traumas move out of our bodies, because it's really physical, and it's like density, and it's held in there. But once we start to move it, and there are different techniques to support us in moving it and processing it, because that's a key piece too, is that we process it, because it's the processing is a big piece of integration, and then we expand, and as we expand, we also contract because we're integrating these. And then it gives us a bigger picture and we can hold more. That's the other part. That's where I think the warrior comes in, is that the old warrior, was disconnected from that part of understanding that it has to come through the heart. And it's an energy of being able to hold a container. By doing our own work, we create more spirit in our bodies. And, and then we can hold that, like, compassion for the other without falling apart and getting defensive and reactive ourselves, for them to find themselves, and for us to also continue to find ourselves, because it's never one relation, it's always an interaction. But the more the work we do, more work we do on ourselves, or the more integrated, the more independent we become, the more we then are able to understand why our interdependent relationship with everything else is so important. Because otherwise we can't see it. But once we see it and we're whole and we can hold a strong, loving container, we then can make decisions and choices that reflect that we have this response hyphen ability to interact with all beings, with the land, with the animals, with the people, to hold space even for those that we disagree with, because there's so much separation. They believe this and I believe that. So how do we get together? We got to hold it all, because that's what's coming to us right now, is all these pieces.
Yes. And is this type of work you do to help others come out of their trauma and understand who they are, and then integrate all these energies?
Yes, yes. Yes, so in addition to the tours and the writing of the books and the experiences that I'm having personally, a big part of my work is to do psychospiritual workshops and support others in finding themselves and really stepping into a place of a stronger container for themselves, more whole and more aligned with who they are, because we each carry a piece. Not trying to be like somebody else, but like finding who am I? Why is this important to me? And it's a journey. It doesn't happen like through thought up here, you know. Years ago somebody said, and I'm like, I don't understand. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, because I felt so connected, to, and I still am to the white lions in that work. When that opened me up, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to be doing this, But what then started to evolve over time was, no, it's more than that, It's really all the animals. It's the land, it's all the people. It's like all of it is a part of the healing. So yes, and then I also see private clients. So, and I am an energy worker, so I'm understanding more and more how, how energy is held in our bodies from trauma, and that can be changed.
Yes, for
We can
sure.
heal.
Yeah. Carley, you mentioned water several times, and I'm curious to find out what's your personal relationship with water.
My relationship is growing with water, more and more and more. And just briefly, I suppose. I mean, where I'm at right now, and I don't even know. I mean, it was reflected back to me, and I don't remember the name of the woman. She's actually written in your book, has a chapter, and I can't think of her name right now.
Vida Austin, I think.
That she's recognizing that water has a consciousness, and that consciousness can inform us, so it's not just the land that's our teacher and our co-creator. We're co-creating with water. In fact, water is the most ancient of all ancestors that we carry in our body. And guess what? It comes from, it's an alien, essentially, is one way to, it's like it is something that came here to Earth, and it's a part of us. And we are in relationship with water all the time, because it takes up so much space in our bodies, and it's around us, and we've been disconnected. So that's a shift in consciousness. Like if we're like, You mean I can communicate with water and water can communicate with me, that I can actually listen to the, the frequency, of water and translate it? Because this is what animal communication is too, but it's not just animals, it's water. I can communicate with the fire. So, right now in the United States, I'm thinking, we've had two really big events back to back, essentially. We've had the hurricane in Florida and all the ways that water devastated the land and the people and just completely, ravaged, so many communities. And then it happened now in Los Angeles with the fires, completely ravaging the soil and, and the land and the structures just like it did. So we're having the water and the wind also, both of them. So can we begin to start to have a different dialogue with these elements, to co-create, to listen to what the messages are? What is the message that water and fire are giving us right now? Because it's important. We're out of balance, and there's some, there's communication that we are now beginning to understand can happen. If water can say it's the I am, there's some, there is that feminine life force energy again. And, that's important. So that's a little bit of water for you.
Yes, and in fact, in my books, the main question is how can we decode the molecule of water and get the information out of it and understand water much better? In a way, I think it has to come from our end, just have common sense when we act in the world vis-a-vis water and vis-a-vis Mother Earth in general. But I think will be interesting to be able to decode the molecule, because everyone or the scientists say that in the quantum field, the molecule of water contains the history of the universe and implicit of the earth. So that will be a very interesting exercise and revelation for all of us.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's it. And that's what's happening, because even though there's so many other things going on around the world that are frightening for so many people, there is also this like grassroots remembering and changes that are taking place as part of this shift, which is a natural part of change.
Carly, are you going to or planning to add any more spiritual tools this year to your spiritual toolbox?
Any more spiritual tours?
Tools to your
Oh,
spiritual
tools?
toolbox.
Oh, tools to my spiritual toolbox. Well, right now, the one that's growing pretty strong in me is the family constellation work. And so and it's actually, there's another intensive. I recently returned from an intensive in Portugal with family constellation work, and it was 36 different countries. And I was drawn there very quickly, and I got the message I really needed to go. And it's working with essentially understanding that there are patterns that we carry from our family lineage in our bodies through the lineage. And so unresolved things in the past, or, out of alignment behaviors because something in the family was too much for someone to carry. So somebody else carried it and created a lineage pattern of, essentially being off that 31st meridian, and that there are different tools that you can use to, support that understanding, to begin to understand how it got out of alignment and to do some reparative work to bring that field, because it's essentially the field of energy that's passed on. It's a morphogenetic field, that is passed on, Richard Sheldrake's work, in, one's physical or energetic body. But it goes beyond that, Claudio, because it's like also understanding that the earth itself has a morphogenetic field that's out of alignment. And we can learn, through the animal kingdom, or the earth kingdom or the water kingdom by stepping into its morphogenetic field, and it can inform us. And so this, right now is something that I'm really, and understanding its connection at multidimensional levels. I also do a shamanic multidimensional mystery school with a dear friend, Judith Corbin Blackburn, and she does sacred geometry. Well, she actually does the 9-dimensional access, but right now she's been focusing more on the sacred geometry, and I'm bringing in this piece, and it feels like it's really starting to. I'm getting excited by it. It's informing me more. So I'm going to go back to a family not back to, but I'm going to go to a family constellation workshop or intensive in New Mexico in May. That's all on the flow of water is the focus. So
Nice, beautiful.
yeah, so this will be coming. So it's amazing actually, just to know that you can step into this field.
Yes, it's very, very interesting, and you step on it and you don't want to step out. You just
No.
want to stay there.
Yep. So good question though. It's like, yep, that's how I'm growing right now, is to explore this, because it's all about energy, and that's
Yes.
really my passion right now, is understanding that we're energy, and we're changing, becoming a
Yes.
new human.
Yes. And Carly, if you'll have the chance to give humanity a gift other than whatever you are offering right now, what would that gift be?
And what pops into mind, it's a blessing of love, for humanity, to hold it all, that this that we're in the soup. Humanity is in a soup of change, an alchemical change, and that, as scary as it is, and as hard and challenging it is, holding love, holding it all in love as it transforms.
Yes, we need that love. Thank you. And other than Africa and the sacred sites of the continent you visited, were there any other places that really made an impact on you, either in the USA or any other continent?
There are many. I mean, one of the, this is still Africa, but I did have a chance to go up to spend some time. After visiting the mountain gorillas in Uganda, I took that energy up to the Sphinx, and connected with the Sphinx and that energy, and that was powerful. But the other piece that was really informing me was I went to the whale desert and connected with, these, the desert. It's sand, and we spent the night there, but being in the energy of these ancient whale bones, that are preserved, and that used to be all underwater. Those whale bones, you know, confirmed something which I hadn't, and many people know this, but I didn't know at a time, that at one point whales walked the earth, and that was something that, an indigenous Mutwa, Credo Mutwa, had indicated, Sangoma, that the whales once walked upright on the land. And I'm like, okay, now here it is. So that was, being in that energy was really informed me. And then I also went to Tonga. And I went to Tonga before I went to the whale desert. And in Tonga, I had a chance to connect. And that was profound, and so many lessons and teachings. We swam with a humpback whale, and the mothers that had just given birth, and whether or not they show up to you, and they have very much a respectful relationship. They only allow 4 people in the water at one time for a very limited period of time, but one of the mothers showed up for us, and it was profound. And also got to feel what it was like to energetically hear the whale, the masculine sound underneath the water, and reverberate on my body. So this is all about unconditional love, really connecting to that mother. The baby was there, but for me it was just the transmission of connecting with her was just amazing, just amazing. And I've been to also, and also to understand that Tonga is also in the Ring of Fire, connected to the volcanoes that are there. And the other place that I went shortly after that was Oaxaca, Mexico, and visited some of the sacred sites there, Mitla and Monte Alban, and did ceremony and connected with the trauma there. So that a lot of the places is connecting with the trauma and promoting some healing. And then, unbeknownst to me, because it's not like I'm choosing it, I feel like it's choosing me, and this universe is lining up to go to these places to heal that ring of fire, which is understanding that, that ring of fire exists in that area where it was once Pangea, right? It was one whole continent, and then it, from the changes that erupted, the volcanoes that came to the surface, it created this ring of fire. And of course, in our bodies, women have a ring of fire. The cervix is known as the ring of fire when it's fully dilated to 10 centimeters. It's the same kind of opening into the. So those are a few of the places, but I've tried, by having children who have lived in different cultures, gone to visit them, and each of those have informed me, because I went to Shanghai and spent some time there with a daughter who was living there, went to Thailand, and that was an amazing connection also to be in Thailand, and then Colombia, South America. So these are all places, and different things have happened, but they were things that supported the journey, I guess, of my soul,
Thank you very much for sharing beautiful stories and experiences. And for those who won't be able to travel to these places, at least they got a taste of how it is to be there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final words?
Incredible gratitude for you giving me this opportunity, to share, and it feels very comfortable. I feel you as a kindred spirit, and doing the work, and I really, really do appreciate that. And for anybody listening, to also acknowledge them, that they are also kindred spirits, and we're all seekers,
Yes.
we're all on a pilgrimage of life, and this journey, these threads of connection are so important. And so, yeah, I think, the one that keeps coming for me is because this is like for myself, it's like, don't give up. There is hope, and we are in a place of a new birth, even in the chaos right now.
Yes. Thank you very much. All the best with your trips this year, and sending my love to you and Baba Mandaza. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a beautiful day and weekend.
Thank you. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, leave a comment. And until next time, love and gratitude.